Associates, and today I have Manard Warren with us. And
Hello.
hello, Manard. And
Hello.
today he's going to talk about motivation, goals, and sales call reluctance and how they all tie together.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. When you look at sales call reluctance, a lot of people, it's a misnomer to just look at this topic as being overcoming sales call reluctance. There are actually two things, motivation and goal level, that are more important than whatever type of sales call reluctance you may have. For instance, typically what we find with top producers is they have tons of motivation. Additionally, top producers, in addition to having all that motivation, they have clearly focused, ambitious goals. And then one last attribute that top producers typically have, they're fearless. They still have some call reluctance, and we're going to show that here in a minute, but it's not holding them back to the degree that it's holding back other folks that to this point in their career have only achieved mediocre results, or maybe they're lower than mediocre and they're really struggling to find their success formula. So let's talk, if you don't mind, Jeff, if we can move ahead on the slides. When you look at motivation, motivation is a combination of physical and emotional energy. It is not an endless reservoir. Basically, our emotional and physical energy constitute how much gas we have in our tank. Without gas in our tank, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if you have call reluctance, you can be fearless. But if you don't have any gas in your tank, you're not going anywhere. I mean, again, the easy analogy is think of an automobile. Without gas, you go nowhere. So prospecting motivation, which is measured on the SPQ, is the singular most important category to look at. And most top producers have ample motivation that allows them to have stamina, discipline, passion, desire, and a really good work ethic. The second most important category to look at is, now back to the car analogy, if you've got enough motivation, if you've got enough gas in your tank, wouldn't it be nice to know where you're going? And that's the purpose of goal level. Goal level is actually, and we find this to be, again, a key attribute that your top performers have in any commission sales business. If you could move the slide, Jeff, that would benefit us. Thank you. So top performers have clear and ambitious goals. Now they're not anal about it in most cases, but they have goals that they have set for themselves, business-wise and personally, that when you talk to a top performer, they're in action. They're saying things like, Maynard, here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to boom, boom, boom. Now, when you talk with folks that have lesser goals, that are muddled, that are cloudy, you speak with them, and I hear things like this. Here's what I need to do, Maynard. Here's what I should be doing. Here's another thing that I may do. But typically folks that have low goal levels, they've got some goals that are swimming around in their brain. They just haven't put forth an action plan yet. So motivation, gas in your tank. Goals, that is the steering wheel of your career. Where am I going to put my motivational energy? And then the third thing, and also goals, by the way, is measured on the SPQ. And this third thing, fearlessness, that's also measured on the SPQ as far as the prospecting break score. Do you consider yourself to be fearless? Most top producers have addressed their fears and they don't let their fears hold them back. Yeah, they hear no. They're just not trying to avoid no like mediocre producers are and folks that are maybe even lower than mediocre producers. What I find with folks that are really searching for a success formula, Jeff, is that they're trying to scrub their list. They're looking at their list and they're trying to play the role of mind reader. And before they reach out to these folks, they're trying to figure out, okay, which one's going to have the higher propensity to tell me yes? Which ones do I think may be telling me no? And they want to avoid those folks that they have this premonition that are going to tell them no. With top producers, they're just banging out the calls, right? And as we know, due to the law of large numbers that we've all been taught as commission salespeople, a certain amount of people will say yes, a certain amount of people will say no. Top producers typically embrace the no. So those are three critical attributes that top performers have. Now, if we can move the slide, when you look at motivation and goals, now the question becomes, if we can go one slide further, is our motivation, is it free-flowingly, if you could go back, Jeff, to the arrow, is our motivation free-flowingly reaching our goals? Are we just constantly in motion? Are we doing the things that we need to do? Are we reaching out to the prospects? Are we following up? Are we asking for referrals? Now, what we find is that most salespeople aren't able to put their motivation into motion that quickly. There's this thing called sales call reluctance. If we go to the next slide, that people, even though they may be well motivated, they're saying, you know, the time's just not right today. I'm going to wait until tomorrow to call that person back because I don't want to be considered that pushy salesperson. Or they're saying, I need to prepare more. You know, the last thing I want to do is to show up and not have answers for all their questions. So I need to do some more preparation. It's only going to take me maybe another 2 hours. Then I'll be ready. Or, you know, I could ask for those referrals, but that's going to make me look needy and desperate. And that's the last thing that I want to do, is to look needy and desperate. So I'll wait until I show more value to my client. And maybe in 3 to 6 months, then I'll feel comfortable going back to ask them for referrals. Well, one commonality amongst all those things that I just mentioned, they're all sales call reluctance excuses. But even more importantly, they keep us on the sideline as a commission salesperson. Here's one thing you can take away from this video, is it's never, as a commission salesperson, it's never a good strategy to wait. If your strategy is I can't do that today because I know I need to do it today, but, and then you make a decision, then by the way, you insert your whatever your sales call reluctance excuse is right there. And then that's going to lead to inactivity. It means you're on the sideline. It means that you're not doing revenue generating activities. And if you go to the next slide, it shows what this ramps up to is our M. Notice the lowercase m and the lowercase g. Basically, after we have all this mind trash that is kicking our behinds emotionally for a long period of time, it wears us down. Our motivation goes down, our goals go down, then all of a sudden this new thing happens, we get burned out. We're mediocre, we can't figure out a system to be successful, and we start wondering, am I able to be a successful salesperson? Can I be successful with this company? Can I be successful selling this suite of services? And we start to have all these questions, and that adds to the clutter, Jeff, and it leads to burnout. And then either because of lack of activity, either our manager frees up our future for us, or we voluntarily make a decision to leave our job. That's how it all works. Now we've got, if you go to the next slide, this shows that, I mean, these are real people on this overview that Jeff has put up. And this shows the consequences of call reluctance. Here's what we're looking at. We're looking at 5 people vertically. The person on the left that has the most red is a struggling producer for a company. At the same company, starting with the second person out to the right, the next 4 people, they're all top producers with that company. So let's just take a look at those 3 things that I just mentioned: motivation, goal level, and to a large degree, fearlessness. So let's go down to prospecting motivation. You can see that everyone, including the struggling producer, they've got ample motivation to be a top producer in their company. That's not the issue. Let's put a check mentally, let's put a check mark for all 5 of those folks. But here's where things start to go off the rails. The second most important category on the assessment is prospecting goal level. Oh, you see a difference here. The person that's struggling has muddled, cloudy, somewhat non-existent goals, and will have a tendency to be all up in their head about what they need to do in a given day, week, month, or year. They'll be saying things like, yeah, I suppose I could make more prospecting calls. Yeah, I really need to get better at making prospecting calls, but they don't put a number to it. They don't quantify it. They're all up in their head, and it's so hard for them to take action because they're not connecting their motivation to any substantial, concrete, ambitious goals. That's a commonality that the 4 folks to the right that are top producers with this same company, 4 things that they all have in common. From left to right, you can see, starting with the second person, yeah, we see a couple of yellows, but that's okay. Then you see a couple of greens there. That means, by and large, the 4 top producers for this company are well motivated, and they've got a good, clear, focused, ambitious goal level. Those are 2 of the 3 attributes for top performance. Now let's look at the third. If you go to the top, you look at prospecting break score. Prospecting break score basically measures how fearless are you. The person on the left has more fear than the typical salesperson. What does that mean? When it's time to pull the trigger and take action and reach out and contact prospects, 41% of the time, because that's what this person's prospecting break number is, 41% of the time, they hesitate, procrastinate, or avoid. 41% of the opportunities that are coming their way, either prospecting-wise or selling-wise, they have some type of a debilitating negative thought connected to it, and consequently, instead of taking the appropriate prospecting or sales action and reaching out and touching that prospect, instead of doing that, they take an exit ramp. And what does that mean? That means they're doing something in all likelihood that's business related, but it's not a revenue generating activity. And it sounds like this. I know I need to call Mr. Smith this morning, but gosh, man, I just called him 3 days ago, left him a really good voicemail. If I call him back today, I'm going to look like that pushy salesperson that nobody likes. So you know what? Instead of calling him back today, I'm going to wait a week. And instead of making these calls right now, I think I'm going to go do that training that the home office wants us to do. I need to get to that at some time. And even though it's 10 a.m. in the morning, prime selling time and prime prospecting time, I'm going to go open up that manual, or I'm going to do that online training course that I need to complete. So I'm going to do that instead of things that could support me being successful in my career. The 4 people out to the right do a far superior job in taking their motivation and free-flowingly putting it into revenue-generating activities, asking for referred leads, asking for business, closing the deal, making those first contacts, following up a second time, a third time. They're relentless. They follow up a 4th time, a 5th time. Where folks that struggle with this fearlessness factor that we're talking about, Jeff, they may even have a rule that says, you know what, Jeff, I'll contact somebody 3 times, and if I don't get them in 3 times and I don't hear back from them, I'm moving on. See, that's what I hear from people that are chock full of fear. They're putting these boundaries and these limitations on themselves, where top producers don't do that. So those are 3 things that are instrumental with being a top performer. Luckily enough, we measure all 3 of those with the SPQ. And then in the workshop that we have, we take each of those things, those attributes, and do we ever talk about them? And we show folks a way that they can either increase their motivation if necessary, enhance their goal focus if that's what's required. And we also show folks how they can become fearless. Remember, we weren't born being reluctant to reach out to prospects. We've learned that. Thus, we can unlearn that. So those are the things I really wanted to share in this video, is the connection between motivation, goals, and then the fearlessness factor. And most people, by the way, I mean, it's a myth that salespeople are these fearless, talkative, gregarious, outgoing people. About 80% of salespeople are shaking in their shoes when they think about the variety of different prospecting methods that they could utilize to support their career to be successful. So that is a myth that that salespeople are these fearless folks. It's basically the opposite. Salespeople have all of these hesitations, they have these fears, they have these things that are causing them to be intimidated. And if you're using this in your hiring process, wouldn't you like to know these things prior to extending an offer? And if you're using this for folks who are current sales folks, what a great course to go through to cleanse your sales brain, to get it refocused, to get it positive, so that you can have a phenomenal year. I got a little preachy there, Mr. D. Those are
that's some great information, Maynard. In fact, and I think we really need to save this video because you did such a great job. But you need to get your grandson, bring him in, introduce him, because
come here,
I think he wanted to be in the video the whole time.
Come here, bud.
He was popping in and out. He's a future salesperson here.
Yeah, that's my 7-year-old grandson. He's obviously a ham, and I guess he's telling me he wants more ice cream.
Okay, well, you better go get him some ice cream. So definitely. Well, I appreciate it, Maynard, and you have a great day, and thanks for all the words of wisdom.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.